What's up, people? This is the Bleav in Saints podcast presented by FanDuel. I am Mario Jerez, Spanish play-by-play voice of the Saints, native New Orleanian. She is my co-host, Erin Summers, veteran reporter and analyst covering the Saints and the NFL as a whole. Erin, we have made it to training camp. Team reported today. We'll have practice to break down soon, which means we'll have games to break down soon. Good vibes here on Bleav in Saints, at least on my side. How you doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's a great time. A lot of people can feel that football season is almost here with the training camp started. Some of them started earlier this week, last week, but Saints starting on Wednesday. So July 29th, everybody will be in attendance, although not everybody on the field. We'll get into that, of course, but it is a good sign. There is going to be football back on airline.
Yes, that's a good feeling. And like you said, across the league, I love having my TV set to NFL Network in the
hmm
morning time and seeing all the great reporters covering all these teams. Very exciting time of the off season, if anything, because we're close to the actual season. So, as Erin said, lots to chop it up about on the show here today. The Saints report to camp. That means Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore both address the masses. We got a couple of sound bites. We'll break down what both Mickey and Kellen had to say. And we'll take a glance around the NFC South. I won't call it a look, Erin, but we'll take a
hmm
glance around the NFC South because we do have some certain happenings with some teams of the division, some injuries, some contract disputes, some trade requests. So lots of good stuff to get into there. But we'll start recapping the first day of training camp. Technically, first practice isn't until tomorrow morning. But as we
hmm
said, the Saints did report to camp today. Mickey Loomis addressed the masses, had plenty to say. But before anything, I feel like we should address the attendance, which guys won't be out there, and get that out the way. Not a very big list here when you talk about the PUP and guys that
Yeah.
formally won't be participating, Erin. Keyshawn Silver, the defensive lineman, and Mason Tipton, both on the PUP list. And then tight end Cody Hardy and defensive lineman Xavier Harris are both on the non-football injury list, so they won't start training camp. A little bit of substance here with the attendance, Erin. Obviously,
hmm
not good news for Mason Tipton. He's fighting for his life to try to make the team as a wide receiver, along with
Yeah.
4 or 5 other guys. And then Xavier Harris, we talked about briefly. I won't go too into the legal troubles, but to summarize, he had some issues on the field with injuries and off the field with some legal problems that he had before the NFL. But anything standing out to you here, just in terms of attendance, which guys won't be there?
It honestly is a pretty small, short list, especially when you're not talking about some of these players that you're going to be counting on this year. These are players, and unfortunate for them, that are trying to make the team, but not players that you are dependent on. So it's good in terms of the Saints health wise going into training camp. Mason Tipton apparently had an off-season tibia surgery. So hopefully he will be back soon. When Mickey Loomis said that Tipton and Silver were on the pup, that it wouldn't be for a long amount of time. So they should be back on the field soon. But what really stands out to me are the people that are not on the list. And one being running back Kendre Miller, who has been dealing with the return from an ACL last October. The fact that he is fully cleared and is going to be a full go is huge for him. And Kellen Moore alluded to the fact that Miller worked his butt off to get back on the field to fight for a spot. And it was interesting to see Moore say it that way, that yes, Miller is fighting to make this team to be able to be considered one of the backs that they're going to go to that will be in rotation. And unfortunately, at this point in his career, he hasn't been able to stay on the field consistently. So that's still where we're at with him. You have to be available to be somebody that the Saints can go to in their running back room. So that is interesting. Good for Miller that he's back on the field. Will be one to watch with the depth in that running back room and who falls in place after Travis Achan and Alvin Kamara. But then also we got a little bit of an update on Chris Olave and Jordyn Tyson. Also, both cleared their physicals, able to participate, but it sounds like we're still going to see them a little bit limited as they get acclimated to training camp, the rigors, the demands on the body, and just make sure, per the training staff and the medical staff, that they're good to go so they make it through training camp to the start of the season.
Man, I'm so ready to talk about these guys with receptions and yards and touchdowns instead of with blood
Hmm.
clots and hamstring injuries, but we're getting closer. That's a good thing. And I guess we'll break this down receiver by receiver here, Aaron. And let's go ahead
Yeah.
and get that Chris Olave soundbite ready if we can for Mickey Loomis.
Hmm.
And speaking of, we didn't learn very much about the contract situation. They've said that this has been ongoing. But in terms of his participation, that's really good news because we know he's been limited all off season, dealing with that blood clot that he had in January. But before we introduce that soundbite, I want to talk about how it's good that he's out there, not just through all the contract stuff. They've talked about him being out there no matter what. He will attend, he will participate, but him being healthy is a big deal. We've had so much dialogue about him being underrated, but it's nice to see him, at least for now, shake free of this blood clot issue and get out there and practice with the team.
Yeah, it seems like he is fully healthy. However, he alluded to Mickey Loomis's comments on him, saying that they're just not there yet on reaching the terms of what that contract extension is going to be and the new deal that he's going to have. Obviously, has one more year. You like to get those set before they get into their final year, especially when it's a wide receiver that you want to lock up. But yeah, they got to come to terms on that. So this is what Loomis said about Olave.
Having a lot of discussions, we have meetings, and we're just not there yet. We're hopeful. Yeah, we want to get it done, and Chris and his agents, Jason and Drew Rosenhaus, I know they want to get it done. We all do, but look, it's got to be right for both parties.
Yeah, and he went on to say how he doesn't want to say he's optimistic because when he is, usually things go bad. And when he's pessimistic, usually things go really well. But I'll call my shot here, Aaron. I think they'll go ahead and agree to a contract in the next couple of days and during one of these practices. I think like they respect Chris Olave. They know what he's
Mhm.
done. I think that the Saints feel he is worth the money, even if a lot of fans are going to complain about overpaying him. But there is something to be said for the blood clot issue, the concussion issue. Loomis admitted as much today. He didn't go too much into it, but he said that was a variable. So I think they're just crossing the T's, dotting the I's, guaranteed money,
Mhm.
provisions that had to do with one of those two specific things. But I think this will get done soon. I'm not Mickey Loomis. I will say that I am optimistic about Olave and the Saints coming to terms real soon.
Yeah, I agree. I think both sides want Olave to have a home there with the Saints. It's just what does the numbers look like? How much is guaranteed? How much emphasis or question is there around the injuries and the history that he's had? It's a lot of money when you're talking about locking somebody up like him, but he is going to be your number one wide receiver. You've got to make sure that he's happy and that he is also able to contribute. So I'm sure there are some sticking points for either side, and they got to get on the same page.
Yes, as I made my final point on Olave here, let's get that Jordyn Tyson soundbite ready. I'm so excited to watch him, Aaron. Like you've
Hmm.
heard me on this show kind of stump for Chris Olave, just going over the tangible facts, like the production and the narrative of him being injured, just being statistically untrue. That's the case. But football wise, this is a guy who's produced his entire career, 3,000-yard seasons, and his best stretch was with a rookie Tyler Shuck and kind of a patchwork offense. What's he going to do this year? I'm very excited to see. But moving on to the number 2 wide receiver on the Saints, there's been a lot of dialogue about Jordyn Tyson, his hamstrings, his lack of participation during OTAs. Mickey Loomis gave a little update on him and his participation going into training camp. And this is what he had to say about Jordyn Tyson and his hamstring issues.
Yeah, I think he had a recurrence of it prior to us, drafting him, and so we've just been cautious. Really, there's a lot of stuff he could have done, but we've been super cautious about it.
Recurrence. I hate that word. I hate that word when it comes to hamstrings and soft tissue. It's like, I hope that is not something that we continue to see, that they are being extremely cautious in bringing him along to make sure that there isn't another issue with that hamstring. It would happen before they drafted him. I assume they knew that it had happened. But yeah, he's going to be somebody that they are going to continue to check in on after each practice.
Yeah, this is kind of weird and help me out here because he said that they knew about this when they drafted Jordyn Tyson, but this is still new information, right? Like he never actually confirmed that he had another, like you said, a recurrence to the
Hmm.
hamstring, or do I not have my facts straight?
No, I don't think that that was ever confirmed or said by anybody. I think that we all thought it was just seeing how his body reacts and seeing the workload, whatever it is, getting the Saints doctor's eyes on him and how his body reacts, and then evaluating a plan from there. I didn't know that there was another issue that had come up that they were monitoring, and it wasn't just monitoring his overall body and health because of the previous injuries in the past.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. I gotta say, maybe it's just because it's all we've been talking about with this player, which is unfortunate because he's so talented. And I was doing the show for a little bit before you, and I said on this very program, I'm not an insider. I don't claim to like break news and know stuff, but it wasn't really a secret that the Saints loved Jordyn Tyson. And if they
Mhm.
were going wide receiver, that's who they were going to take. Not Tate, not any of these other guys, even through the injuries, they were going to take Jordyn Tyson. So it's unfortunate. Like I said before, this is going to be the narrative until he plays in the games. But according to Kellen Moore, he's going to be out there. They're going to
Yeah.
try to build him up, manage him based on how he looks in practices. But I'd like to see him be a full participant, Aaron. If it's anything less than him participating, him being in the team drills, I'm going to be a little bummed with the conversation around Jordyn Tyson.
It sounds like he's going to be out there in more of a larger role than he was during OTAs and the offseason programming, but I don't think it's going to be as a full participant. He might be fully healthy, but it does sound like he is going to go through a ramp up process throughout training camp, at least to start.
We'll see what happens. As an aside here, this reminds me a little bit of the conversation around Marshawn Lattimore coming into the league, because much like Jordyn Tyson, he had a lot of hamstring issues, but it was a little different because those were early in Marshawn's college career. He missed
Mhm.
all of 2014 after surgery on his hamstrings. Then in 2015, re-aggravated it, only played in 4 games, was healthy in 2016, his final collegiate season, and then got drafted by the Saints. So a little bit different because Jordan's injuries are more recent, but I guess some precedent there. And Mickey Loomis and company probably kept that in mind when they made the draft pick of Jordyn Tyson. So if there's anything to make you feel better, maybe it's that, a little bit of recent history with hamstring injuries and picks still working out for the Saints.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Loomis praised the work that Ted Rath and the strength and conditioning team have done and what the doctors are doing. So I think that there is going to be opportunity for these players to get to a place that they need to be to stay healthy for the year if they start with this plan and they follow things as is laid out for them.
I really like Ted Rath. I got to say, I feel like he's kind of the replacement, not direct replacement, but kind of like the role that Darren Rizzi was, like high energy, inspire competition, have some fun during a not fun time. I really, really enjoyed his presence. But talking more about the Saints reporting to training camp today, Aaron, what we're going to
Mhm.
expect throughout practice, a lot of eyes are going to be on the offensive line this year. And especially now when the pads come on, we see a little bit more physicality. I'm looking forward to that. But it was interesting today. Mickey Loomis said that every single offensive lineman, at least the starters, I Bleav, didn't miss a single day of offseason training. And the way he said it was like, this is a rare occasion. Like, that doesn't happen
Right.
very much. And that made me think that the addition of David Edwards is going to be a big one. Not just his production, not just the experience that he brings, being a leader on these offensive lines with some really good quarterbacks, but I think it's really needed for the Saints. Like, you got a couple of young guys there, the 2 tackles in Fuaga and Banks, who are playing really good. But I like having somebody else with experience, somebody who has quite literally been in the trenches for a long time. And if the Saints are going to improve their run game, if they're going to be better as an offensive line unit, I think it's going to be in large part because of David Edwards. I feel like he's kind of pushing the culture with the offensive line and trying to push, every single one of them attending.
I think it takes a little bit off of Eric McCoy's shoulders because he has been that one, the older vet in the room. Cesar Ruiz came under a little bit of scrutiny over this past season. Mickey Loomis talked about it. He said Ruiz took a lot of ownership of his play and production, or potentially lack thereof, last season, and wants to be better. And when you have somebody that's coming in that's a vet at left guard that can help maybe bring your game to another level as that right guard, it's going to be extremely beneficial for Caesar when previously you just had a rotating cast there at that position. So now you have Eric McCoy David Edwards that you can rely on as players who have done it at the highest level. And your two tackles, they're always all smiles. They just love to be out there. They want to hit people. They want to play smash mouth football. They love that line. They spend so much time together. So I think that this group is going to take a huge step forward together. We're going to see this offensive line really click this season, which we desperately need, especially in the interior, to help that run game, as you alluded to, and give Tyler Shuck more time.
Yes, the interior is huge, but I love that they have their two bookend tackles kind of going forward. And we talked about on the show, the Saints had a great run of tackles for like 15 or so
Mhm.
seasons, but then the draft pick of Trevor Penning happened, and that set them back a couple of years. But give Mickey Loomis and company credit, Aaron. They addressed that position. First round pick in 2024, tackle.
Mhm.
First round pick in 2025, tackle. And you moved the pick from the year before back to his natural position on the right side. So I feel like we don't talk about those two guys enough. Like they're a big, big part of the future of this team. And I got to say, Aaron, I'm kind of alone on this island, I feel like, but I believe in Cesar Ruiz. I feel a big season for Cesar Ruiz coming up. If anything, just because he's on a really good line. Like if all, and it's not realistic
Yeah.
to think the top five guys are going to stay healthy. I know that. But if you have the starting five, I believe Cesar Ruiz can simply not be the weak link. Like I think he could be like Jermon Bushrod was in a couple of offensive lines. No disrespect to him, but when the unit is that good, it makes every single piece better. And I think Cesar Ruiz is going to benefit off of that.
Absolutely. And I think that it falls into your point about the two tackles. They're still young, and a lot of this team is young. It's something that Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore both alluded to when they were speaking to the media on Tuesday. And I'm so proud of Mickey for actually using this word and saying that we are in a developmental stage with this team, because for so long it was kick the can down the road and we still want to compete. And I'm not saying this team cannot compete, but you are acknowledging now that there is a changing of the guard from the head coach at Kellen Moore to the youth on this football team. And that developmental stage, yes, has to take place, but it has to take place quickly. And Mickey Loomis said this: we are in a race to get better. There are players on this team that have to take a big step forward for this team to be extremely competitive, go from 6 wins to an NFC South title to eventually a Super Bowl. And it starts with players like Talia Seifuaga on the one end, and other youth that you just drafted. Jordyn Tyson has to be an impactful player on the defensive end. Quincy Riley's name came up. Jonas Sanker has to hit in the slot. And there's so many core pieces of this team that are young, and they do need to take that leap forward this year.
And that's exciting. During the time that Drew Brees is going into the Hall of Fame, they're finally, to your point, kind of turning that next page as a franchise and relying on some young guys. And I'm glad you brought up Mickey's words and kind of his tone. I know you and I both speak really good Loomis knees. Like we've seen a lot of this guy's press conferences. But I thought his tone was interesting today, Aaron, because before the draft, during his pre-draft presser, it kind of seemed like he was tempering expectations a little bit. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
we like Tyler. We're all excited about Tyler, but he didn't even start a full season. We only won 6 games. Let's all chill out a little bit. Today, he was talking like a GM who's ready to win some games, and a GM who feels great about last year's draft class. To your point, like they already hit to an extent the fact that some of
Mhm.
these guys are entrenched starters for you on offense and on defense. And if guys like Tyler Shuck and Banks and Sanker have good seasons this year, Aaron, you're putting this 2025 draft, I think, in the same breath as 2006, 2017, not just helping you for those guys' rookie seasons, but bringing some stability to your franchise going forward. So I like that Mickey Loomis is having faith in these guys. Big seasons in their
Mhm.
sophomore years, not just for Tyler Shuck, but for Quincy Riley, who we brought up by name, for Kelvin Banks, who was all
Mhm.
NFL quality for most of his rookie season. Like we talk a lot about Tyler Shuck, but such a big opportunity for so many second-year guys on this team.
Yeah, Danny Stutzman is somebody that I think we're going to speak more about this year, going to be making more of an impact. Haven't seen what Devin Neal can do if he can stay healthy. There is a lot of potential, and I think that you even talk about one who kind of is a rookie this year, and Vernon Broughton, because he didn't really get to play last year. And they have a lot of high expectations for Vernon Broughton as that interior defensive lineman. We're really looking forward to seeing what he's able to do being healthy and hopefully playing a full season. I think that Loomis's expectations were tempered because you saw Tyler Shuck perform at a high level towards the end of the season. You didn't see all the pieces around him that you were intending to have because the roster wasn't healthy, but he did well. You don't want to get overly excited. You see what he does in the offseason, though, and the way that Tyler Shuck absolutely attacked from the first day post regular season for the Saints to where he is now. He has done it with intention. He has been in the facility. He has been working out with multiple different receivers, tight ends. He's been hanging out with his offensive linemen. He's been spending time on and off the field, organizing that big retreat to San Diego with Drew Brees. He has done everything right. And it tends to translate to the field when you develop that type of chemistry, the attention to detail, the work ethic, the leadership, the maturity that Tyler Shuck has shown, plus the athleticism. And I think that now Loomis is letting that excitement simmer a little bit. And he's like, okay, he's shown us a little bit of who he can be, of what he can do and who he can be on the field. And then off the field, he has definitely been the leader that we need post Drew Brees era. So I think Loomis might be drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit here.
Much like the entire Who Dat Nation, or most of them. And shout out to Tyler Shuck for not being stingy. I didn't know if this was legit, but I saw it reported by ESPN. He paid the way for his teammates to go out there, to go to San Diego. And this is somebody who's on a second-round contract, so it's not like he's absolutely balling. So a lot of people drinking the Tyler Shuck Kool-Aid, including Saints general manager Mickey Loomis. Before we take a glance around the NFC South here, Erin, and talk about some news around the division. One interesting tidbit from the press conference today, Rod Walker, really good journalist for the Times-Picayune, asked Mickey Loomis about Taysom Hill and if they've had any contact. And Mickey addressed his question. He said, yes, we have had contact, but that's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you anything else. And I thought that was interesting just because I'm a little surprised that by now, July 28th, they haven't outright said that they're moving on, or he hasn't come back to sign a short contract and retire as a Saint or anything like that. But at the same time, realistically, I just don't see a spot on the team for him. I don't think he's taking any snaps at quarterbacks. We already have 74 tight ends in that room, so I doubt he's going over there. So, like I said, a little surprised that we haven't had clarity on Taysom Hill, but I just feel like it's too late for him to come to the Saints. So I thought that was an interesting comment by Mickey today.
You would hope that Taysom Hill gets his flowers in terms of getting to retire and having the press conference and speaking with the media. And maybe that will come, but he's still processing how he wants to do that, when he wants to do that. I know he's somebody who wouldn't want to take away from the current team and what's going on there. So maybe that will come eventually, unless he's still working to get back on the field after his injuries and he's buying himself some time. Maybe he's not quite done. The phone lines are open. The conversations are still being had between Mickey Loomis and Taysom Hill. So we'll see how that plays out. But to your point, they have a lot of tight ends, and it's going to be a battle to see who makes a team and what roles they fall into in terms of the offense. And Kellen Moore kind of said the same thing today. He said, I am going to let them compete. They will define their roles. We'll see how it goes. Like, he is not putting anybody in a box. It's going to let it play out and see what happens. But there's not a ton of snaps to go around. So people are going to have to value the time that they have.
That's exciting. We'll break down that tight end competition throughout training camp here on Bleav in Saints. And according to our friends at FanDuel, Erin, not much movement when it comes to the odds to make the playoffs for each team. Right now, the Bucs still have the shortest odds to make the playoffs in the South at plus 146. The Saints right behind them at plus 172, followed by the Falcons at plus 220, and the Panthers, who are getting no love from the sportsbook this offseason, all the way down there at plus 235. Speaking of the Panthers, they got some pretty devastating news earlier this week. They have their first padded practice coming up on Thursday, and when they have that, they will be without linebacker Nick Scourton. he suffers a torn ACL and is out for the season. And this is pretty devastating for Carolina, Erin. This was a really productive player as a rookie. 17 games, 8 starts, finished the year with 47 tackles, 5 sacks, and 9 QB hits for the 15th ranked Carolina Panther defense. So that's unfortunate. Really, really feel for the guy. I was able to see a video, didn't look like a good scene out there. He was having to be helped off the field. All of his teammates gathered around, and definitely not very surprising news at this time of year, but definitely not good news for the Carolina Panthers.
It's always tough, especially it was like the first day that they were on the field for that to happen. It's just a tough way to start any season with a major injury and a blow to a defense that I know are building and excited about, especially a young player like that. So feel for him as well. He's not the only player or the only team that's dealing with some pretty significant injury news, as the Atlanta Falcons have no healthy quarterbacks coming into training camp, which was surprising today when we found out that Tua is dealing with an undisclosed injury and will not start camp. Participating, will not be able to be on the field. And then Michael Penix Jr. is still recovering from his ACL. So sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, the Falcons are like the verbal meme here to describe the Atlanta Falcons. They're that really like crappy house like in a really bad neighborhood that has like the Lamborghini parked in the driveway. Like they have some
Ooh, they
amazing
have
skill.
nice toys. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing skill players, better than the Saints, objectively. I'll say it. Like in terms of top heavy, like Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan, like that's really, really hard to stop. You got to have some pretty anemic quarterback play to not have some successful offenses with those guys, in my opinion. So unfortunate. With the Falcons quarterback battle, it's interesting, Erin, because I think I'm a little bit higher on Tua than most people. I have respect for his abilities, but he's just not healthy. He hasn't been healthy for a while, and I'm not really surprised to see this pop up. So not good news for the Falcons. I like Kevin Stefanski. I feel like he did a pretty good job in Cleveland, all things considered. But I think the quarterback play or the unavailability of the quarterbacks is going to be the downfall for Atlanta this year.
That's tough. It's the most important position on the field. You have to have somebody that can line up there that you can count on. And that's just not the case there right now.
Yeah, unfortunate for those guys. The only other quarterbacks on the roster, if you're interested, Trevor Siemian, our good friend, and Jack Strand, the undrafted quarterback. So one of those guys might be throwing passes to Kyle Pitts and Drake London pretty soon. Bad news out of Tampa Bay. I guess you can call it bad news. They've been in the news cycle. Baker Mayfield talked about a month ago about wanting to agree to a contract extension before training camp. That didn't happen, so it looks like Baker is kind of gamble on himself this year and will be a free agent after the season if nothing changes. And then yesterday, I Bleav it was, Vita Vea requests a trade from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a stalwart on their defensive line, obviously a big part of that Super Bowl championship a couple of years ago. And with Tampa, Erin, I think this team, this franchise deserves a lot of credit for what they did post Tom Brady, with Baker Mayfield, with Bowles winning the division all those years in a row. But I think that iteration of Tampa has just kind of run its course. I feel like they're towards the end here. And to me, it spoke volumes that Mike Evans left, because I know he had that contract offer from San Francisco, which is where he went, but he also had one with Tampa. And I was surprised he didn't kind of stay to usher in the next chapter. Somebody who, keep in mind, already has a Super Bowl ring. So it's not like he's going and ring chasing just to get one before the end of his career. But just a lot of negative press in Tampa. And I'd call my shot here. Maybe I'll regret this later, Erin, but we talk so much about the parity in the NFC South and 4 fan bases in 4 cities all thinking they have a shot at this thing. If there was one team that I had to say will not make the playoffs out of this division right now, I think it'll be Tampa Bay. Just too much attrition, too many bad vibes after that nosedive to their season last year after they started well. And I think the Baker stuff, the Vita stuff, all a symptom of that.
It makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. But in terms of Vita Vea, he's working on a $17 million a year contract right now, has the potential to make another million. So 18. Jeffrey Simmons just signed for what would be $35 million a year. Jalen Carter then today signs for what will be $38 million a year, plus even more incentives. The price is going up. So if the Bucs want him, they better sign him right now and get it figured out because it's only getting worse for them. I mean, he was drafted in 2018. He is on a very, very cheap salary, and that is not the going rate for defensive tackles right now. So they better get on board, or he is going to be playing for somebody else.
All I ask, do not trade him to the Rams. If they're not going to sign him, just don't trade him to the Rams. I don't know why that vision's already in my head, but hopefully that does not happen. So lots going on in the NFC South with the Bucs, with the Falcons, with the Panthers, and with your New Orleans Saints. Before we wrap up the show, there was a cool story involving Saints
Yeah.
defensive lineman Christian Williams. Mickey Loomis brought it up today. I know you've been keeping up with this, Erin. What exactly went down with Christian Williams and a Saints fan?
Yeah, it was Christian Miller.
Christian Miller.
Yeah, no worries. He was at Rouse's in Metairie, and he had one item. Person in front of him had several more, and she kindly said, "Hey, he's only got one item. Let him go ahead of me." And he said, "Thanks, I really appreciate that, but if I go in front of you, I'm getting all of your groceries as well." Obviously, there was a little back and forth about it. He ends up paying for the groceries. She says, "Thank you." He leaves, and the cashier, shout out, true Saints fan right here. He said, "Do you know who that was? That was a Saints player." And she tracked him down and said hi to him, got a picture, and figured out it was Christian Miller. And it just speaks to the character that we have on this team, even some of the young guys. So shout out to Christian Miller for going the extra mile and doing his good deed there. And I love it. It just makes me happy to know that we have guys like this on the team.
Yes, I love stories like that, and I love that he didn't post it himself. You know, the lady
Mhm.
basically said that he was very chill, walked right away, and the only thing he told her was something along the lines of, "My mother always told me to do good deeds for people."
Mhm.
So she kind of told the world that Christian Miller did all this for her, and that he's really living by his mom's word. So that is awesome to see,
Yeah.
and it was nice to see Mickey Loomis acknowledge it during the press
Mhm.
conference today. So that was really nice to see. He went the extra step for that lady. And as of today, we have a new sponsor here on Bleav in Saints, and that would be ZipRecruiter. So when somebody does something like that, like Christian Miller did for the lady at the grocery store, it might not seem
Mhm.
like much, but it makes a positive impression when somebody goes the extra step. And if you're hiring, great candidates can also go the extra step and tell you why they're interested in your job on ZipRecruiter as a way to stand out from the others. And ZipRecruiter has a new feature that shows you the most interested qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology finds qualified candidates quickly. So try ZipRecruiter and meet great candidates who will go the extra step for your job. Remember, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, meet your match on ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter. So good way to end the week there, Erin. Good vibes with Christian Miller and the lady at the
Yeah.
grocery store.
Great way to wrap up the show. I love little heartwarming stories like that. And obviously, the help ZipRecruiter can give you great as well if you're in the market for a new job. Tomorrow, the Saints actually get on the field for the first time, first day of training camp. We're going to hear from Cameron Jordan, Alvin Kamara, Justin Reed, and Tyler Shuck after their first practice. So do not go anywhere. Always stay tuned in right here to Bleav in Saints, and we will bring you the breakdown of that after practice on Wednesday. But
That's right.
hey, we're in it. We're here. We're here, Mario. We made it.
We made it. I'm so happy. Saints reported today. We heard from the coach and GM today. We'll hear from the quarterback tomorrow. And like Erin said, we'll be active here on the show. We'll have at least a couple more shows before we wrap up the week here on Bleav in Saints.
Mhm.
So thank you for listening. Appreciate all you guys. Interaction's been awesome on YouTube. Even the criticism, man, we welcome all of it. So appreciate all y'all liking, subscribing. Please continue to do that and leave a 5-star rating. Also, write a review. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back soon with another episode to break down the first practice at training camp over there in Metairie. For Erin Summers, I'm Mario Jerez saying see you soon. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Talk to you real soon.